Alright, today we're back. We're going to be doing a complete disassembly on the new Walther PDP. So we'll go ahead and get into this. I guess we'll start and do the magazine. It's just a simple magazine takedown like most every other magazine out there. Your spring out, follower. Now you're cleaning, whatever. Put back. Slide that down in there. Slide your plate back on so it clicks in place. Next, we'll start by removing the slide from the frame itself, doing your field strip per se. Going to pull back a little bit, just like a Glock basically. Just got two bigger levers here that you're going to take down. You're going to slide your frame off the slide. Take your barrel and recoil spring out, set those aside, and then we'll start on the slide. Depending on how deep you're going to go, you're going to have to take your optic off or your optic plate off. So we'll go ahead and remove that real fast. You know, mine are pretty loosened here, so yours might be a little tighter than that. Sure we don't lose our other screw. Let's see. From there, we'll remove our striker. So what I'll do is I'm going to get a very small punch, and on the back plate you have this small gap here that you can push in. You're going to basically push in the striker. And when you do that, you can slowly kind of push down on that back plate. It's easier to get your hand on the back side and do it. Push it down until it disengages or allows the back plate to slide off. Pull the plate off, which is a metal plate, steel plate like that, not plastic. Then from there you can pull out your striker assembly. Now if you wanted to take the striker assembly apart, let's see, I don't know if it'll work on this or not. Usually you can pull down, and it's kind of hard to do and see at the same time here. Pull the spring all the way down until the two red cups, those cups just are two pieces that kind of go in around, and the spring holds them together. Pull it down all the way. I really don't want to mess with doing it. And then once those cups come off, spring will come off, the housing will come out. You can have the striker itself. Then putting it back on, the same thing. Slide it down, pull the spring all the way down, put the two cups together, and let the spring come back over the top. It's not something you really need to ever do, so unless you're changing out a spring, which I don't think they make any striker springs for these. So next we'll go remove your extractor and firing pin block. To do that, we're going to push this pin out from the bottom through the top. And when I do that, I'm going to hold in on the extractor itself. Push that out, put it over there, and then I can wiggle the extractor, get the firing pin block to come out, and then from there the extractor spring, little blue spring down in there, take it out. All those pieces together. That's the slide. Besides removing your sights, of course, which we don't do. That's the complete disassembly. Like I said, you have to take the optic off if you're going to remove. You don't have to do it to remove the striker, but to remove the extractor, you will, because that pin comes out the top. So that'll be up to you if you want to take your optic off to remove it. Next, we'll start on the frame. So to start with the frame, you have to remove your takedown lever first. So what you'll do, if you look on your takedown, you've got it from two different, this is where it's gonna lock in right here, pushing down, you've got a spring underneath. You have this is one piece that wraps around and goes underneath. So what you do is push in on this pin, right here. And while you push in, you kind of pull down a little bit and get it to come off of the pin that's going all the way through. Once you do that, you can pull it off the bottom or pull it all the way around, so it basically kind of hooks on it. Or cutouts towards the trigger, and it sits on there like this on the other side. And then once you have it there, you can, you're just basically sliding it off. From there, you can remove the actual takedown lever piece. So what I do is I push down in on the locking mechanism itself, and then just push that pin out, pull it out the other side. And then from there, I'll keep my finger on the takedown, the locking piece first, and then take it out. It does have a spring in there, so make sure you don't lose it. All right, let's see. Okay. What is your problem? Lie down. Big old ferocious cat here. Okay, so from here, one or two different ways we can go about it. We can either drive out our pins, our roll pins, or we can start with taking the slide lock off. And the slide lock is a little tough to get out when it's brand new. This is the same as most other Walthers, the PPQ. With the ambi slide locks the same way. So we gotta, if you've seen my other video on it, it's not too bad. Alright, so the slide lock, this is all one piece. It's connected to that is a bar that runs all the way through, and then the star bit in here connects to the other side. So this side's one whole piece. This side's just the flat piece that sits on here. So what you have to do is drive out from this side with a punch, pushing that out through this. So I usually get a roll of tape big enough to support the sides right here, but it leaves this open so it can fall and we're not, beating against it for nothing. So we'll put that over my roll here and get a punch small enough but big enough to go right in the center of that star, and then we'll knock it out. And this will take a little bit of pressure depending on how many times this gun's been apart. Let me use a different hammer here. Make sure you're on it. Knock that through. And then you have, so this is what I was saying here. So this goes, this side is just sitting in there and it kind of rotates itself out. It's got a little hole up inside that hole. And this is what you have basically. This is how it connects. Like that. Boop, boop, boop. Then you have your spring here. Which we'll take that out when we get further into it. From here we can drive out our two roll pins. Use a roll of tape if you'd like, or you have one of these. Yep. No. There you go. Bigger roll pin goes in the front, smaller one in the back. Take your rear out. This one should be easier. Alright, from there we will take the locking block out. Now, I don't know if I'll still... First time I did that, it's pretty... where's my screwdriver? It's in there pretty snug, so if you want to try to get something underneath it, just a little bit. You don't want to really pry up on it, but just to start getting it worked out of there, because it's in there pretty tight. And once you get it, you can wiggle the locking block itself out. And then we'll go ahead and take this spring out, so you can see how it's positioned. Goes in through this front hole, comes in, and then it sticks in a small little hole on that end right there. I'll show you. See, it's got another little hole it sticks in, so you just kind of wiggle it out and then work its way out through the... Whoop. Work its way out, just like that. Alright. Next, we'll go ahead and pull the Sear block and the trigger. So, when we got the pin done, we'll pull our Sear block up and out. And our trigger all together as one. And then your trigger bar itself, let me get it hooked back on there. It's hooked onto this spring, and it just unhooks from there. You can set your trigger off to the side. Really no point. I guess you could drive this pin out and take the bar off itself and the safety shoe, but I don't see the reasoning for it. Most of the time you're going to be replacing the trigger anyways. And then from there, let's see. We'll go ahead and do the Sear block. The Sear block, I know Walther did a complete disassembly video. There's a reason I almost didn't do this, since I saw they made one. But during the video, they sell this all as one piece. So if something is that wrong that you need to replace it, that you're going to buy the whole new Sear block. So they didn't show how to disassemble it. He kind of said there was some welded parts and stuff in here, and I don't know what he exactly is talking about. There's nothing welded in here. This is a plastic piece. Your ejector is, molded into this, and we don't remove that. But the your catch itself is your Sear, and the Sear catch is easily taken out. So if you want to disassemble this, let me go ahead and get closer here. First, you can remove this spring. So if you want to, it goes in and it loops around and just goes in this hole. I usually just put something thin enough to get in behind it and then pull it forward like that, instead of twisting it and ended up bending it. So next, let's see, we can remove the catch in here. Yeah, we can do that first. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. So what we'll do is push out this pin. You can see where the spring is. It's easy to get back together. Get you a punch big enough and just push that pin out. And then from there you can pull the hammer down, or the catch down, until it comes out. And so that's how it sits in the gun, like this. The spring itself goes in, and you can see the hole in the bottom. It just sticks in there. Get in there. It just sticks in there like that. Comes out the bottom. And then when it goes back into the Sear housing, it sits right here in this groove right there. You can see it. So, and then from there you can take the actual Sear itself out, and it's got a one-way pin from this side, from the right side. I like to keep my finger over it and then just push that pin out. Put it off to the side, and then I can let off my finger. It's a very lightly tension spring, and it'll all just come out like that. Now you're gonna need a slave pin to get that back out or back in. There's something slave wise. I mean, you can do it without it, but it's a lot easier to use a slave pin because it's just hard to get it together. I used usually I'll use a cut piece of drill bit or an old punch. This is as lightly tensioned as that spring is. I just use a piece of red straw from a spray can because it doesn't need to be steel in this case, because it's not, you're not putting a lot of force on it where it's going to bend. So just cut you down a real small piece of some hose off some gun cleaner, some spray blaster or something like that, and you'll be able to get it all back together. So put that over there, and that's the sear block. That's it. There's no, it's not that difficult. And I know Walther, they don't want people doing this. They don't want them to remove parts because maybe they do. Who knows? You would think they would. If they lost a little spring, they'd sell you the whole thing. So they don't want people taking apart their guns liability-wise. All right, next we'll take out the magazine release. Now what you're going to do is push in on the magazine release. And then you got a hole on the back side. I hate this style too. I don't know why. It's just I've always had troubles with these. I don't know why. There you go. So got the hole back here. Take your small punch and you're gonna push in, just barely push in on it a little bit. And once you see that gap open up there, usually that'll be enough to let the there we go. Start letting off of it a little bit, and then it should allow it to start coming through this side. So I'm going to pull this side out, which is the whole piece, and you have a spring that sits in there, and then you have the other side here, this piece. So basically when it's in there, you have your spring, and then let's see here, nope, like this. It sits in there like that. Without the spring, without the spring. Hooks in under there, so when you're pushing in, you're pushing this tab back far enough so it can allow it to slide out. So you can see how this tab goes up in this slot here. So, and that is the complete disassembly of the Walther, besides doing the back straps, which is self-explanatory. Drive that pin out, you can change out your back straps. Yeah, it's not that hard of a gun, especially if you don't go into the sear block and everything. It's fairly easy. So, good job to Walther for making a easy to take down firearm for the average person to do. Even when you don't go into the sear block and all that stuff, that's what's helpful to get and keep maintaining your guns. And the fact that they sell these parts like the sear or the whole sear block, so if you shoot out the gun, you can replace the parts, or if you are going to put one of the triggers in or whatnot, it's fairly easy to do altogether. So so let's go ahead and put it back together. While we start on that, we'll do the magazine release first. So we'll take this side, slide it in. And go in there just like that. I'm going to hold in on it, and then you can either drop the spring in first, or I usually will. Let's see, I'll put the spring in like that and keep it forward, the gun forward. And I'm just going to slide it in. Make sure that it's coming through this side here. And push it all the way through until it locks in. It just locks itself in once it gets past that point. You can get it in and then test fit it. Make sure that it's working. Alright, So now, while we're zoomed in, let's get to the sear block. That's probably the hardest thing to put back together. Besides, well, really, that's it. Not hard, but just takes a little bit more time than everything else. So we'll start with that's not that sear block. It's a locking block. Let's get this out where everybody can see it here. Make sure I don't miss nothing. Alright, so we have our catch spring. Take the shorter end, that short end, we're going to put it down into the catch and through that hole. That's how it's going to sit. You're looking at it. Spring closest to me. Out, smaller spring will stick out the bottom a little bit. And then what I'll do, it's going to go back into it like this. So you got the ejector facing forward. It's going to go back in like this. And what I do is I'll slide it up in there. And then I will grab a small screwdriver, my slotted screwdriver. Push it down. It's going to, you got to control the pressure here with your forefinger. Yeah. It's hard to get my little finger in there to push down because I gotta push up on the spring to get it behind while you let it come through. That's too far. Damn it, I'm gonna do this a different way. That's hurting my finger. Might just be able to do it with my finger. Yeah, I knew that was gonna be the easier way. So basically, I'll show it again. See, just grab it like this and push up with your thumb, and then just slide it in, and then just push up on your thumb and get it into its little slot, and then slide it up in there like that. So it's sitting in its slot. You can see yeah, there we go. And you see the spring, this end down there is sitting in its little slot. And then get your pin and start pushing it through. You're gonna have to push down on it and mess with it a little bit to get it all captured. So I'm gonna push down. Oh, I did it out of the camera view. I'll go back. So it wasn't all the way through there. When you're pushing it through, it wants to pop up like that. So you gotta just push down on the hammer and get it all lined up. Usually I'll just stick this big punch through it and push down on the opposite side of my desk while I pull it where it needs to go, and then just push down at the same time, and it'll pop through there. And just make sure it's even on both sides. There's not an extra side sticking out. Go in there, confirm it. This back spring tension. And then the sear itself, you're gonna need four things. Got your spring. All right, time to put the sear back in. We're gonna grab our sear spring. I'm gonna take the longer end up. We're gonna put it up into this, up in like this. Take our piece of straw here and maybe. I'm used to working with little things. I don't know why I can't get this done. Okay. There we go. So it kind of sits like this. And then the harder part's getting it angled down in there so you can get your pin through. So usually this spring has to sit flat in there. So that's where it's going to give you a little, you already see my spring. Get in there. Damn it. There. Every time I move it, it must fall out. Alright, now keep it flat. Tuck it back into its spot. So I can shoot red through the little hole, and then I can start working on pushing it down and through. There we go. Should be able to push it down. You just got to get it all the way through. So now you have the sear in there, pushing up and down. It can move freely when it's. Let's see if I can move the hammer forward a little bit, get its catch. When it comes through, it catches here, and when the trigger bar releases. So that's how it should be. That is a little difficult. Just remember that bottom of the spring needs to be sitting flat in here, so it's more towards the front, not towards the back. That's what gives it its upward spring. And now I'm going to cut and go back to putting the gun back together. So, well, this is your trigger bar guide. I missed this before when I took it apart, but that just goes in that hole, sets up in there like that. And then your spring itself, you can go ahead and just put it back on, just wrap it, set it towards the front. And now, see at the end. Do here. Guess we're ready to put it all back in the frame, so I'm gonna back out a little bit. What are we doing? Yeah, I guess that's ready to go back in. So let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and hook the trigger bar back up to my spring. So I'm going to take the trigger bar like this and go in. And then I'm going to hook it around the trigger bar, or the trigger bar spring, return spring. Just like that. And I can just leave it sitting like this for now until I can get it, until I'm ready to put it back in. And then go ahead and drop the trigger in and the sear block in. And now that's together, at least you don't have to worry about it. From there, go ahead and put the slide lock spring back in. So I'm going to go through the front hole, these 2 holes. Just going to wiggle it, get it in there like so. And then I'm going to put it inside. Oh, you shithead. God, I can't grab it. Put it inside that little hole right there in the frame. Somebody else does this too. I can't remember who. There we go. Get it set into the little hole in the frame right there. And we can kind of leave that alone for now, because we'll go ahead and drop the locking block in. And once we put it in, it'll keep it out of its way. So now we'll go ahead and drop the locking block in. Make sure your spring's tight up against the frame as it can be. Oh. Yeah, put it in the right way. Wait, that was the right way. What am I doing? Make sure, there we go. Get the spring out of the way. Push it down in place. It's hard looking through the camera at the same time. We need to start. Yeah. Okay. That's in. Let's see. Sure works. We'll go ahead and do. Yeah, let's put the slide lock back on. Where you at? There you are. Yeah, put those over there. Okay, so slide lock going back through. You're going to want to make sure first that this hole is completely cleared. Make sure the locking block's down in there all the way. And then what you can do is go ahead and lift up the trigger bar or the trigger a little bit and get it started. That way you know it's captured. And then what you need to do is go in and lift the slide lock spring up with your other finger and push it, the slide lock, close enough to where it rests on it. It rests on this little notch, or this piece here that comes off the slide lock, and the spring will rest on that. You don't want to push it all the way through yet, because you got to put this in next. You could have put this in first, I guess, but this is going to go in at an angle. You can see this nub that comes off of it goes into, there's a little hole up in there, so it goes in kind of and then down, just kind of like that. And then what you're going to do, it's going to be up a little bit, and I'm going to start pushing it through. Eventually it's going to catch it, and it's going to put the slide lock where it wants, because it obviously can only go one way. So you want to make sure that it's in sync. So you really can't mess it up, but you know, some people probably could. And then I'm going to squeeze it as much as I can to get it as lined up as possible, but then in reality it's got to be snugly hit back on there. So usually some tape or something, so I'll just make sure I got a firm hit in this side of it. So we got it started. Now it does take a decent, you want to, still got a gap here, and that's not enough. You need to see more of this on that side. So just want to give it a nice firm so you don't see that gap. It operates smoothly. You've got the trigger spring returning. That's it. I don't like that method because it seems like you could, I don't know, I guess I'm not the engineer of it, but it seems like taking that apart will, which I guess with any gun's kind of the same thing, either roll pins or, you know, some, you can't really say much of longevity of it. I mean, you know, it's not something you're going to be taking apart every week, so this is, you know, maybe a couple times in the gun's life to thoroughly clean it after tens of thousands of rounds or whatever, or you're changing out a trigger, which is usually only once or twice, but probably wouldn't recommend doing that a whole lot. you know, a whole lot. I'm not saying you can't do it over and over, because I did my PPQ quite a bit, and I never, you know, had any problems with it. It eventually will start to loosen up a little bit, but it'll still work fine. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, next, yeah, let's go ahead and put the slide lock, no, takedown lever back in. So get your takedown lever and its spring. And its spring just barely, it doesn't even sit in there, it just kind of goes. Actually, I think I put the spring in first. Did I? Yeah. Let's take it. Maybe I did put the spring in first. Put it down into the hole. There we go. Until it goes down in, it's got good spring. And you're going to want the flat of it facing towards the trigger, so it's going to go in like this. And from there, get it lined up, push down, and then slide this pin through so you got it even on both sides ish. And then you can put the slide lock lever or slide takedown lever back on itself. Cutouts goes in like this, cutouts facing the trigger. You put one on the hole there, and you can bring the other one up. And then what I'll normally do, I think, is I'll grab it like this so I can push up with my middle finger, and I'm just going to push in. Damn it, kind of hurts. Snap it back over the sides. There we go. Just like that. Alright. So now we'll put our pins back in. We got 2 roll pins. The longer one goes up front. This is a tight pin. That's not the punch I like this. Drive it back through till it's flush on both sides. Oh, won't let your shear block come out. Same thing over here. Oh shit, wait, nope. Guide came off when it lifted up out of there. That's something you want to watch for. I didn't notice. Must have slipped off when I... There we go. So, nothing major. Just want to make sure. That's why you always make sure you don't have leftover parts on your bench. I saw the sear blocks slide up out of there. Too far. A little bit too far. Everything working, frame. That's your frame back together. And we'll put the slide back together. We'll start with the extractor, firing pin block spring, firing pin block penny pin. And then we'll start by putting the firing pin block down in there. It's going to go in like this with the higher side facing towards the outside of the frame. See what I'm doing there.
And then what I'll do is I'll push down, put the extractor spring in first. And then we're going to drop, push in on the firing pin block. Set the extractor in. You can see it's kind of captured right now. Now I'm going to push in. I'm going to drop the pin down in there. Of course, hollow side up. And then I should just be able to push once I get it in the exact right spot. It's hard to do with my fingers. Get down in there. What the hell's your problem? Get her lined up there. Back a little bit. In. There we go. Push it down till it's flush up here. That's the extractor and firing pin block going back in. And there you can put your plate back on, optic, whatever you have. And then you can put your firing pin in, slide that in, take your plate, push down while you slide it up until it snaps in place. Barrel and recoil spring. Sorry, I get ahead sometimes thinking everybody knows everything, but so smaller round end goes towards the front. Push in until it locks down on the barrel lug. Barrel and recoil spring in, and we'll slide the slide on. Make sure everything works. So put our trigger, our magazine in. Slide lock's working. Magazine's ejecting. Trigger. Oh yeah, beautiful trigger in this thing. It's amazing. So. Pretty great. Awesome gun. I was really excited for the PDP when it came out. The serrations are pretty heavy, which is nice. Makes it suck when making a holster though. Really got to block those out so they want to grab. Speaking of holster, if you need one for your Walther PDP, check out Tactile Holsters. eBay, Etsy. I have an ad for. You'll see this holster actually, one I made for it. This is one I use. Nice solid retention. Easy in and out. You can do double clip RCS clips. You can do a single, mono block style clip. I don't use foamies. You can do tack wear. We can do whatever kind of clip you want. So just email us or message us on the page if you're needing a holster for your PDP. I only offer the 4.5 and 4-inch versions, but for now until they can get a hold of the 5-inch and it becomes more popular. So that is the complete disassembly of the Walther PDP. Once again, do these at your own risk, discretion, whatever. This could be liability wise, firearms, taking your guns apart. Make sure you know what you're doing, make sure you're following every step, and make sure you completely test your guns afterwards before you start to carry it. You want to make sure everything works fine. So that is the complete disassembly of the Walther PDP. Hopefully we get to that Canic Elite SC here soon. I can't go away from it for a couple days. I need to get the video filmed, so we'll get it done soon though. But I'll see you next time on the gun bench. Thanks.